This is me 10 days ago, helpless in the hospital after a near-death experience that changed my life forever. Near-death experiences are widely regarded in the scientific community as one of the most powerful events a person can go through, as they discover truths about life that were previously hidden. So I'm going to attempt to walk you through everything I experienced, from laying in agonising pain on the cold hard floor to detaching from my body and floating above it while being operated on in hospital. This experience made me look at life in a whole new way, and by sharing it with you, I'm aiming to pass on some of the lessons I learned so you don't have to go through the same agony I did. Hi guys, it's Mark. So you know me, I'm a hustler through and through. I started with $0 to my name, working a dead-end job and getting bullied by my manager. Through lots of hard work and determination, I managed to quit my job and turn my fortunes around, making me a millionaire in my early 20s. Now this hustle mentality was a great benefit to me in my early years, as nothing could stand in my way, not even my so-called friends stealing my business plan. I might not be the smartest person in the room, however, every obstacle that stood in my way was absolutely obliterated by my ability to outwork everyone else. Over the years, this approach has proven to work time and time again, which means it's become a habit almost impossible to break. This brings me to the day of the accident. Currently it's exhibition season for many of my businesses. This is very important, as if done correctly, it can set up the next 12 months of sales. Because of my hustle mentality, I like to have a huge amount of control over these exhibitions. This means I've been working around the clock to perfect every detail. I also think it's important to meet my customers at the stand in order to get a real sense of customer demand, which is greatly beneficial when developing new product ranges. The downside of loving your business so much is that sometimes you don't realise how tired you actually are until it's too late. After working non-stop for weeks, getting everything ready, and all weekend at the exhibition, I returned home absolutely exhausted. Now, I could say I took my race car out for a spin and crashed it at 150 miles an hour, or I was piloting a Cessna 152 aircraft and crash landed. That would make a much better story, but alas, real life is nowhere near as glamorous. My near-death experience happened as I was walking down the stairs in my own house. I was wearing socks and my mind was wandering, and before I knew it, I'd slipped. I'd walked down those steps thousands of times before. However, when you're used to doing something over and over again, you engage your autopilot. This is also true for car crashes. Most accidents happen when you're 10 minutes from home, as you're so comfortable with your surroundings. My legs went straight up and I landed on my upper back, cracking 3 ribs and puncturing my lung as I crumpled down the remaining stairs. The broken ribs narrowly missed piercing my kidney, leaving heavy bruising. The technical term, which I later found out, was multiple displaced posterior rib fractures, a punctured lung and a high danger of pneumonia. This is why I'm still short of breath today. All I knew was that I was laying helpless on the floor, waiting for the pain to stop. At first, I thought I was just winded and it would pass. However, instead it became increasingly hard to breathe. As I drew ever increasingly shallow breaths, my wife and son called the ambulance.
No, go.
Having trouble breathing. He's really having trouble breathing. Yeah, he's that's all he can do now. His eyes are going funny, he's breathing funny.
All I can remember is a strange sensation of feeling cold, very cold. I looked at my wife and son thinking this could be the very last time I see their faces. I had one thought running through my head: I'm about to die. I'm a guy that always likes to be in control, so this situation was heavily distressing as my well-being was completely out of my hands. I just had to hope and pray the ambulance would arrive before it was too late. The hours that followed are a blur of pain and emotions. However, there are 3 key moments that have stuck with me, and I'd like to share them with you, as they've altered my view of the world forever. Moment one is when I made the decision to fight for my life. Once the ambulance arrived at my house, they assessed my injuries and made it very clear that they had to get me to hospital as soon as possible. There wasn't a second to spare. The issue is, I'm a tall guy, and even with the help of 2 paramedics, they were unable to shift me from my crumpled heap on the floor. One of the paramedics leaned over and whispered into my ear, "We can help you, but you need to make this happen." They pumped me full of morphine and waited for me to make my attempt. I knew I only had one chance at this, so I bided my time waiting for the perfect opportunity to make my move. My last bit of strength came when I heard on the paramedics' radio that a 5-year-old girl a few miles away was choking and needed assistance. This made me realise I was taking precious time away from the NHS, and I forced myself to get up and live on. They wheeled me out into the ambulance, and as the doors shut, I said goodbye to my family for what very nearly was the last time. During the journey to the hospital, I had an out-of-body experience. I was looking down on my lifeless body, thinking about things like never before. Maybe it could have been the medication, or perhaps my mind just needed to escape the intense pain I was feeling. Either way, it was a sensation I had never encountered before. I thought about my businesses and how grateful I was that I have an amazing team that would handle everything correctly in my absence. My mind then wandered to my wife and son. I was so pleased that I had created generational wealth. I was at peace knowing everyone would be okay. I also knew my son Curtis has grown into a capable businessman and would make sure that his mum was looked after. Moment 2 came when I had an unexpected surprise at the hospital. As soon as I arrived, I was rushed into the emergency room and was greeted by a friendly voice that said, "Hello, Mr. Tilbury. I'm your doctor, and I'm also a big fan of your videos, which have helped me so much. It's now my turn to help you." I was then given pain relief, ketamine and God knows what else, rolled onto my side, and without hesitation they cracked my ribs back into place, and then to re-inflate my lung they inserted a tube to drain the blood, which protruded from my left hand side. This is because my lung had shrunk all the way up to the top of my chest. That's about as much as I can recall, as I was drifting in and out of consciousness. Although I wasn't thinking straight, I can remember the emotions I was feeling. Firstly, a strong sense of gratefulness swelled within me for everyone that had helped me from the NHS, which is our public healthcare system in the UK. They were absolutely brilliant, from the paramedics to the doctors and everyone in between. Secondly, I felt a sense of fulfillment, as I'd always followed my heart and lived my life to the fullest. I've flown aeroplanes, raced cars, travelled the world, raised a beautiful family, and grown a YouTube channel focused on helping people become wealthy for free. If I did die then and there in that operating theatre, then I felt I'd made the most of every second. Experiencing new things is actually a great way to make your life feel longer than it actually is, as the more new things you do, the more memories you'll have to hold on to. Luckily, I survived the procedure, so you could say one of my subscribers saved my life. Moment 3 was when you guys gave me your support. Once the procedure was done, I was lying down with no idea of what was going on, and I was so lonely. Almost 24 hours later, my family were allowed to come and see me, which was, to be honest, absolutely fantastic and very emotional. This is when I truly realised the loved ones around you are the most important thing. My son Curtis then suggested that it would be nice to post a photo on Instagram to let you know what was going on. I couldn't believe the amount of love and support that followed. I only started social media with Curtis at the start of lockdown, and in such a short space of time, it was lovely to know that we had made such an impact, and it felt like you were giving me that support back. It actually brought tears to my eyes. This near-death experience transformed my outlook on life, and maybe, just maybe, some of the following things I learned will also apply to you too. Firstly, you can't take your money with you when you pass away. So I'm buying 2 Lamborghinis, a Ferrari and a boatload of drip as soon as possible. No, I'm only kidding. Flexing isn't really my style. However, it is true you can't take your money with you. This drilled home to me the importance of family and relationships. I know I've mentioned it a few times, but knowing that my investment portfolio could provide my loved ones with passive income income if the worst was to happen was a great comfort to me. Secondly, I realised the danger of hustle culture and how working too hard for extended periods of time can actually be life-threatening. I've been hardwired to work hard all my life and hate the idea of taking a break. I always feel guilty when not working, but maybe it's time to change. If you see similarities in your life, then maybe this applies to you as well. Thirdly, I notice how much I really care about helping others grow their wealth with my social media accounts. Your messages of support touch me so much that I'm rearranging my life and making this an absolute mission. Curtis and I have been writing, strategizing and changing things around, and I'm pleased to announce that we're relaunching our podcast under the name Strike It Big in a shiny new studio, as well as working on our very own book together. The main point I'm making is, don't let a near-death experience be the trigger that changes your life. Take action now. You could start by picking up your free stock worth up to $1,000 from public.com. There's no better time than today. So I'm going to leave the next video right up there, but don't click on it just yet. Make sure to subscribe if you want to grow your wealth. Okay, I'll see you over there.